The boy they laughed at, the one with the quiet voice and darker skin, the one who was always alone at lunch and carried the weight of two worlds on his back, was now the only thing standing between chaos and safety. Arav Mehta, bloodied but unbowed, lunged forward in a final act of defiance against everything that had ever tried to break him, saving not just his classmates, but the very boy who had once made his life unbearable. Arav Mehta hadn't planned to become a hero. He didn't wake up that morning thinking he'd save lives. He just wanted to survive another Friday, another day of biting his tongue, of shrinking himself into the corners of classrooms and hallways where eyes wouldn't find him. He ironed his uniform the night before, picked out the least foreign-smelling snack in the pantry, told his mother, "It's fine." When she asked if something was wrong, it wasn't fine. It hadn't been fine since he stepped foot in Oak Ridge Middle School 9 months ago. An Indian immigrant dropped into a quiet, mostly white Ohio town that seemed allergic to different. At first, the bullying had been subtle. Stares, whispers, laughter when he mispronounced vegetable. Then came the names. Dot Head, Curry Boy, Cow Worshipper, Import. At recess, no one passed him the ball. In group projects, no one made space for his ideas. On the bus, he sat alone while others stretched their legs across empty seats to keep him away. Tyler Morgan had led the charge. Golden-haired, blue-eyed, and effortlessly cool, Tyler had a presence that teachers fawned over and students followed. He wasn't just a bully. He was the sun around which all the others orbited. "Hey, Arav," Tyler once said, loud enough for the hallway to hush. "How do you say loser in your language?" He didn't wait for an answer. He never did. But Arav remembered everything. He remembered the day Tyler knocked over his tray in the cafeteria and said, "Oops, smells better on the floor." He remembered the time someone wrote, "Go back to where you came from," on his locker in red marker. He remembered the day he went home and locked himself in the bathroom, staring in the mirror for a long time, wondering what was so wrong with him. His parents had sacrificed everything to bring him here. A better life, they'd said. But every day at Oak Ridge felt like drowning slowly with no one noticing. Until the robotics club. That room was his haven. There were wires and code and motors, and none of them cared about his accent or his skin. He built a walking robot from scratch, coding, debugging, soldering, reworking. He named it Shakti, power. It was his first real achievement in America. Then Tyler found it. It was after school. Arav had stayed late to fine-tune the walking gate. Tyler and his crew barged in, laughing, pretending to admire it. "This thing yours?" Tyler asked, picking it up. Arav nodded. "Yes, please, careful." Tyler smirked and let it fall. A crunch of plastic and silence followed. "Guess it doesn't walk anymore," he laughed. That night, Arav didn't cry. Something inside him had turned quiet and cold. Not empty, just still. The morning of the incident felt off from the start. The sky hung low with gray clouds. The air buzzed with something unspoken. Arav was eating lunch alone when he heard the door slam. Then the screams. The shooter was young, maybe a former student. Black hoodie, blank eyes. He moved with the purpose of someone who had already decided he had nothing left to lose. Students scattered. Tyler, caught mid-laugh, froze in place. And Arav? He didn't run. His first instinct was survival, but then he saw where the gun was pointing. Tyler. For a moment, Arav hesitated. How many times had Tyler made his life hell? How many times had he stood by while others hurt him? But Arav saw something else in that moment, a kid. Just a kid. Terrified. Powerless. And Arav knew that feeling too well. He sprinted. His feet thundered against the floor. His heart pounded. The attacker turned, surprised. Arav screamed, loud and raw, and tackled him. The gun fired. Once. Into the ceiling. They wrestled. The shooter was bigger. But Arav didn't stop. His ribs screamed. His fingers clawed. He fought like someone who had been fighting his whole life. Silently, invisibly, every day. Security came. The attacker was disarmed. No one died. But something else had been killed that day, the silence. At first, Arav didn't understand what he had done. The chaos, the sirens, the flood of adults, the cries. It all blurred. He was taken to the nurse. Bruises on his side. Split lip. Tyler came to visit him the next day. He looked smaller without his entourage. Eyes red. Hands trembling. I just wanted to say thank you, he muttered. You saved me. I don't get it. After everything. Arav looked at him. I didn't do it for you, he said. I did it because no one else was going to. He didn't say it cruelly, just honestly. Tyler nodded and left. The school changed, slowly, but visibly. There were assemblies, anti-bullying campaigns. Staff received training. Students were encouraged to report harassment. Arav was invited to speak at one of the assemblies. He stood on stage, nervously gripping the mic. I know what it's like to feel invisible, he said, voice soft but clear. To be mocked for your name, your skin, your food, your family. But hate doesn't make anyone stronger. It just spreads pain. Silence. Then applause. Real applause. Not the kind that follows obligation. The kind that follows truth. The weeks turned into months. Arav made friends. Real ones. He rebuilt his robot. Stronger this time. He added a camera, AI features, remote access. He renamed it Rakshak. Protector. People asked him if he was afraid that day. He said yes. But he acted anyway. That's what courage is. One afternoon, Arav found a note on his desk. It read, You make me want to be better. T. He didn't need to guess who it was from. The local news covered him again when he was named Junior Innovator of the Year. He built an app that connected immigrant students with local mentors, people who spoke their language, understood their struggles. He called it Setu, bridge, because that's what he had become, a bridge between worlds. Years later, when Arav stood in front of his college's graduating class as valedictorian, he told a story, not of his academic achievements, not of his awards, but of a day in middle school when he chose not to run. When you're told you don't belong, he said, you can shrink, or you can stand. And sometimes, standing means saving the very people who tried to erase you. The crowd rose to their feet. Arav never forgot who he was. An immigrant, target, kid, and then a hero. Not because he was special, but because he chose to act when it mattered. Because even when they mocked him, even when they bruised him, he believed something deeper, that compassion is louder than cruelty, that courage doesn't wait for permission, and that even in the darkest moments, the quietest voice can still change everything. The years passed, but the echoes of that day never really faded. For most kids at Oak Ridge Middle, the incident became something to be referenced in hushed tones, then eventually stored away as a strange memory. But for Arav Mehta, it was a scar etched into the bones of his youth. Not a wound of pain, but one of purpose. He didn't talk about it often. People wanted him to be their headline, their hero, their shining immigrant success story. But Arav knew better than anyone that heroism isn't one act. It's 1,000 quiet choices when no one's watching. High school brought new challenges. The world was still divided. Hate just found subtler masks. But Arav had changed. He no longer shrank under stares. He walked tall. He spoke with measured clarity. He joined the debate team, started a coding club, and founded SafeLink, a student-led organization that connected bullied students with allies and resources in real time. He wasn't trying to be a savior. He was just trying to be the person he had once needed. Tyler Morgan changed too. Not overnight, and not dramatically, but slowly, like a rusted gear beginning to turn. He kept his distance for the first year of high school. Too ashamed, perhaps, too confused. But senior year he approached Arav during lunch. Hey, he said awkwardly. You still doing that SafeLink thing? Arav looked up. Yeah. I was wondering if I could help. Silence stretched. Not sure if you'd even want me to, Tyler added quickly. After what Arav cut him off, but not cruelly. I want to believe people can change, he said. That's the whole point, isn't it? Tyler nodded, eyes low. They started working together after that. It wasn't easy. Some students scoffed. Why is he part of an anti-bullying group? But Arav defended him not because Tyler deserved it, but because the mission mattered more than personal pride. I don't need him to apologize every day, he told a fellow student. I just need him to do the work. And Tyler did. He volunteered. He listened. He learned. The bully and the bullied, now co-builders of something better. It was a strange, fragile sort of redemption. College brought Arav out of Ohio. He was accepted into MIT on a full scholarship. He studied artificial intelligence, ethics, and social systems. But he never forgot where he came from. He often visited schools, giving talks not about coding or engineering but about resilience. He shared his story not to relive it, but to repurpose it. One speech in particular went viral. Standing before a room of nervous, immigrant high schoolers in Queens, he said, "You don't have to be fearless. You just have to act while you're still afraid." They called me names, mocked my food, my skin, my silence. But when the moment came, I stood. Not because I wanted to be a hero, but because someone had to be. You are enough. Even when the world tells you you're not. Especially then. 10 years after the incident, Oak Ridge Middle invited Arav back. They'd renamed the STEM wing after him. He almost didn't go. But something inside said he should, not for the plaque or the ceremony, but for the closure. As he walked the halls, now freshly painted, vibrant with student art and quotes from diverse voices, he felt something shift. This was no longer the place that broke him. It was the place he rebuilt from. He visited the cafeteria. The floor where he had once stood bleeding and breathless was now polished and quiet. He closed his eyes and heard the echoes, not of fear, but of footsteps running toward danger, of a boy who chose to stand when no one else would. Outside, under the midday sun, he ran into a familiar face. Tyler. Now a social worker. Married. A kid on the way. "You look good," Tyler said with a smile. "So do you." They shook hands. And it wasn't awkward. Just human. "I tell my students about you," Tyler admitted. "About who I used to be. About how you saved me. Not just that day, but afterward, too." Arav looked at him. "You saved yourself," he replied. Tyler didn't answer. He just nodded. And for the first time in a long time, Arav believed in the possibility of real transformation. Not in fairy tale terms, but in quiet, imperfect, daily effort. That night, Arav stood on the rooftop of the hotel he was staying in, looking out over the sleepy town. He thought of Mumbai, of his mother's prayers, of the hallway tears, the spit, the slurs, the silence. He thought of Shakti, his first robot, of Rakshak, his protector, of Satu, his bridge. And he realized something. All those things he had built, they weren't machines. They were versions of himself. Versions built to survive a world that once rejected him. But now, he didn't need armor. He didn't need a shield. He was no longer just the boy they never saw coming. He was the man who showed up again and again for the world that once tried to erase him. And in doing so, he had rewritten the story not just of a school but of a generation. When the world builds walls around you, build a bridge. When it tries to silence you, build a voice. And when they say you don't belong, stand up, speak, and show them the power of the boy they never saw coming.